Good afternoon, Madam Chair. It's Kerry. We're good to go when you are.
Okay, great, fantastic. All right, then I'm going to call this hearing of the Boston City Council's Ways and Means Committee to order. For the record, my name is Kenzie Bach. I'm the District 8 City Councilor and also the Chair of the Ways and Means Committee. And this hearing today is being recorded. It's being live streamed at boston.gov/city-council-tv and broadcast on Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, and Fios Channel 964. It's a hearing that's a part of the Council's budget review process, which spans over several months, about 35 hearings and working sessions, where we really focus in on every department of the city and make sure that we're scrutinizing the budget and thinking about what the work is in the year ahead. And we do ask residents to become involved and testify at these hearings. So you can do that in one of several ways. One option is to come to a virtual hearing like this. So if you go to boston.gov/budget-testify, you can see the way to sign up for the Zoom link. You can also shoot us an email at ccc.wm@boston.gov. Another option is to send your written testimony there, ccc.wm@boston.gov. You can, on the website, upload a video yourself that we can attach to these hearings. And you can find the whole calendar of budget hearings at boston.gov/council-budget. I will draw people's attention to the fact that this Thursday, June 3rd, we have an open public testimony hearing, which will be happening at 6 p.m. We won't have a presentation. We'll be jumping straight into public testimony. So if you're watching this after the fact and evenings are more convenient to you, please do join us on Thursday, the 3rd, this week at 6 for that, because it will be this Friday that we sort of wrap up the first round of our department-focused budget hearings. And the hearings after that will be kind of more focused on the whole budget. You can also informally tweet us your questions using the hashtag BOSSBudget, that's BOS budget. So we hope you'll get involved. And today's hearing formally is on docket 0524 to 0526, orders for the FY22 operating budget, including annual appropriations for departmental operations, for the school department, and for other post-employment benefits. Docket 0527 to 0528, orders for capital fund transfer appropriations, and docket 0529 to 0531, orders for the capital budget, including loan orders and lease purchase agreements. All that verbiage is just the names of all of the dockets that have been filed as part of the budget, but our actual focus today is on the Department of Youth Engagement and Employment, most famous for its work employing our young people over the summer in Success Link and also in year-round jobs. And we're glad to have with us today Rashad Cope, the commissioner, and Tiara Lyons and Jeremy as well joining us. Well, before I turn it over to Rashad, I just want to recognize my colleagues. So I've got here joined by Councillor Andrea Campbell, District 4, Councillor Liz Braden, District 9, Councillor Anissa Savi-George, at large, Councillor Ed Flynn, District 2, and Councillor Julia Mejia, at large. So thank you to colleagues for being here. And I know we've also got some public testimony sign up for later. So thank you to members of the public. And in the meantime, I will pass it over to Rashad Cope. Rashad, you have the floor.
Great. Good afternoon, Council Bach. Thank you very much. And to the members of the City Council, thank you. Thank you for your advocacy, your service, and certainly your tenacity, particularly as you have provided pivotal leadership as this city worked towards an equitable recovery from COVID-19. So our constituents are grateful for your service. So thank you. I would also like to thank all of you for your commitment to Boston's youth and fighting for equity, opportunity, and for listening to make the best decisions when it comes to our young people. And thank you for having our office here today to present our fiscal year 22 budget with the aim of further advancing our very important youth work in the city of Boston. So Councilor Bach and others, what I aim to accomplish with my opening remarks today, if you don't mind, is to really synthesize the information from the documents that you may have received, which is one, the responses to your questions, and then two, our fiscal year 21 accomplishments and our fiscal year 22 goals and initiatives. And I think this will help each of you as city councilors envision how DYE's work has added value to the City of Boston's collective youth services that lives across other city departments such as BPS and BCYF, really with an emphasis on our standing work around our three primary areas, that is youth employment, career and skill development, civic engagement outreach. And then just turn it back over to you for any questions after my remarks. And I'll have some members of my team be able to jump on to assist with answering any questions. So how does that sound?
That sounds great, Commissioner. And I do appreciate the answers you sent over in advance. And I think it would be great for the members of the public watching and for counselors if you'd present them that way. That'd be excellent.
Excellent. So I'll jump in to some highlights first, as I typically do during our annual budget hearing. I want to share a few notable moments that captures the importance of our work. One of those moments is the American Youth Policy Forum, acronym AYPF, which is a national professional development organization that provides learning opportunities for policy leaders, practitioners, and researchers working on education, youth, and workforce policy at the national, state, and local levels. They conducted a virtual study tour that was titled Saving Summer Jobs. How can summer youth employment programs improve youth outcomes during COVID-19? In this virtual study tour, it featured Boston's youth employment work, particularly the work within our department and amongst our providers. This was back in April. Myself and two Boston Success Link Summer Youth Job participants participated in this AYPF webinar. The goal was to talk about key lessons that we'll learn from Boston's Summer Youth Employment Program, to provide guidance to other cities around how cities can replicate Boston's youth employment efforts, and to elevate youth experiences by conducting a fireside chat with two summer jobs participants. So DYE was able to have the incredible engagement and participation of two young people, Nancy Nguyen and Joseph Van. Nancy was a Success Link participant who participated in the Learn and Earn program, which I'll talk a little bit more about, which you guys may be aware of. Also was a youth job participant with Artists for Humanities, and also a youth ambassador as a part of the Mayor's Youth Council. And Joseph also was a Learn and Earn participant, but also worked at the YMCA and the BCYF Shelburne Community Center. Both Nancy and Joseph were great ambassadors for youth jobs. They spoke very earnestly about their experiences and some challenges they as youth experienced navigating youth employment during the pandemic. The next DYE moment I want to highlight is the State of the City documentary. And thank you, Jeremy, for providing this. So Christina Vicario, which is one of the city's digital storytellers, and Do It, had reached out about the documentary they were creating about the response to COVID-19, which was shown during the 2021 virtual State of the City. Bermina Cherry, a Mayor's Youth Council ambassador, was chosen to speak because of her dedication and amazing work on the council. She is a 17-year-old senior at Ursuline Academy, and she is also the director for the Climate Action Committee, which is part of the Mayor's Youth Council. Bermina spoke about how this past year just made so many people finally understand how different demographics of people have been systemically disenfranchised, and that it was through seeing all of this that she still has hope. She said this, that civic engagement is how we solve problems. If you're not engaged, then it's hard to solve these problems. So the wisdom of this young person is amazing. And then the last is, in this piece, is our our NYC Civic Engagement Committee welcomed over 50 or so attendees to join the Civic Engagement panel discussion titled Youth Exploring Crossroads, Women of Color in Government Leadership. We had the honor of welcoming Chief Aisha Miller, City Council at Large Julia Mejia, and Interim Chief of Economic Development Midori Morikawa. The goal was to hear from these leaders about how their identities and experiences have shaped their paths into government. Salma Murphy, who is a youth ambassador, and Jaleel Cardozo, who is a Cape Verdean liaison on the Civic Engagement Committee for NYC, facilitated an incredible dialogue among these women and asked great questions to inform stories of hope, inspiration, and opportunity. So these efforts, the reason why I wanted to share these efforts and open up with these efforts is these efforts define why our work in the youth space is so important. Our national partners want to hear from youth. Our local partners and leaders want to be engaged by youth, and our youth want and need to be at the table. So we do see it as our role and our responsibility to create access to more of these experiences, whether it be through employment opportunities with CBOs, civic engagement, or just elevating youth voice and youth leadership. And this just leads into just our mission, and then I'll kind of just jump into the rest of my presentation. Is our mission is very simple. We continue to exist to employ, develop, and engage Boston's youth. And we continue to do this by amplifying youth voice and bridging opportunities for personal and professional growth. And our team, our entire team, our interns included, envision a future where youth are educated, equipped, and empowered to transition successfully into adulthood. The next piece I want to talk a little bit about is just the dynamic staff. We just have a team of caring adults. Our team is major. They work incredibly hard to make the summer and school year happen. Their tireless effort and commitment to our work and to Boston's young people is definitely unmatched. We have some dynamic team members that are extremely thoughtful and committed and play a major role in shaping the departments and meeting the needs of our constituents and reaching our goals. So I just want to briefly thank them as well. Tara Lyons, Naaman McDaniels, and our employment team who drives our systems and our process work to operate more efficiently, to improve employment experiences for youth. That's everything from hiring, payroll management, Eduardo Franco, Milena, and our career development team who are invested in building the skills and abilities young people need to be prepared for transition into the workforce or future career opportunities. Jeremy Kanzanjan Amory and Camille Rivero and our engagement and outreach team. Jeremy and Camille, who are both new members that just joined us this past December and March, they stepped into our fast-paced work and hit the ground with leading our civic engagement efforts, our communication efforts, public relations, and new strategies to engage and connect partners and youth. And our operations team, Lavelle, who supports our operational and IT needs. And then most importantly, our interns who are closer to the ground than any of our FTE staff. And they really serve and continue to serve as the people resource and the workforce to implement our programs and services and to move our work from ideas to action. So they are paramount to all of our goals and any success we achieve. And then a quick special thank you to our fellow city departments and cabinets who have been awesome partners throughout this year. So that's Chief Martinez and Marta Rivera and the HHS team, Tren, Katie, and Larry, the Office of Workforce Development team, Midori Crystal and the Economic Development team, Pam Leans and the BCF team, and then Yusufi and Renato and the Moya team around their work with the Dreamers Fellowship. So with that, my last piece here is I just want to jump into our program accomplishments, and then, as mentioned, move on to just your submitted questions. So as mentioned earlier, you may have with you our fiscal year 21 accomplishments and our fiscal year 22 goals. So these are a few highlights that I'm actually pulling from there. So we do know that with our youth employment, it definitely stands at the center of fostering social growth, academic aspirations, and creating pathways towards economic sufficiency for youth and young adults that we serve. Research led by Alicia Monastino, who is our tremendous Northeastern partner, it definitely shows that summer youth employment continues to improve youth outcomes by boosting employment through job readiness, raising academic achievement through aspirations, and improving outcomes through community engagement. This research really helped us drive us to a collective decision to ensure Boston remained committed to its young people and offered summer and school year employment opportunities during a very, very different but worthwhile year. Our COVID-19 recovery efforts was a collective effort, again, among our department, most notably HHS, OED, OWD, and our youth job intermediaries, ABCD, PIC, John Hancock, and YEE, in which collectively we rallied together to provide a pretty successful summer where collectively over 6,000 jobs were offered to young people, which is rather impressive, I would say, considering the circumstances. There were 7 key events that kind of led to our COVID-19 recovery process for DYE. There were summer job intermediary planning meetings. There was a summer jobs partner survey. 3, there was the creation of summer jobs tracks, which you guys heard about last year, which was most notably the Learn and Earn post-secondary track, where young people were engaged in credit-bearing post-secondary courses. I think you have the list of courses offered last summer that is connected to our accomplishments and initiatives document. Community listening sessions. We had a department webinar. We worked collectively with OHR to revise our virtual hiring and payroll process, which was incredible. And then we developed a youth employment guidance document. And then just further with our Success Link employment program, we hired 3,758 youth who participated in the summer program just through DYE. For our school year program, we hired 938 youth who participated in the school year program. This was a 24% increase over last school year, which we saw as also a record number of hires at 755. We partner with roughly about 200 partners. These are nonprofit community-based organizations and City of Boston agencies who designed the skill development, career exploration, and work readiness experiences for the young people that participated. Going into this summer, we've restructured our Success Link employment program to include 2 components, really with the goal of strengthening the summer jobs program by attempting to really try to decentralize, I would say, some of the hiring. That is the Success Link direct partnership and the Success Link grant partnership. The Success Link direct partnership is our standard process, which provides selected organizations with an allocated number of youth positions, and we hold the responsibility for managing and administering the hiring and the payroll process for youth employees. Our grant partnership is a little bit different, and it's new this year, in which we still provide organizations with an allocated number of positions through the same process, but the wages for the youth employees are being funded through a grant, and the organizations themselves hold the responsibility for managing and administering the hiring and payroll process for the youth employees. So with this, we did have to develop a revised MOA, which did take a little while. It required legal approval and approval from the auditing folks as well. So we designed that with this new process. And then the other piece of our employment program, as I mentioned earlier, we partnered with Moya because although we're providing employment opportunities, we know that we want to make sure that we're creating equitable access to opportunities for all Boston's young people. So we partnered with HHS and Moya to begin to think about how do we provide leadership and youth development opportunities for immigrant youth. So that is also an initiative that we are pretty excited about that we piloted last summer, this school year, and we're looking to also have an initiative going into this summer as well. Next is our career development work. Our youth training and development work really produced some incredible quality experiences for young people this year. This is where we recognize the value of virtual engagement, as young people were more inclined to show up and be engaged virtually because they may not have had to worry about commuting to a specific location for these career and skill development experiences. A few notable highlights here is Boss Up, which is the name of one of our career development programs. We developed a full week of active career development during the final week of our summer employment program, where we provided young people with work readiness experiences that they can carry with them into the academic year. There were roughly about 100 young people that attended, mainly about 70 young people a day. There were 25 hours of career development that happened during this week. Young people were connected to a vast network of professionals. There were different speakers from different backgrounds, and the focus was on mental health. It was on leadership skills. It was on post-secondary options, and it was on career tracks. And then another exciting development for our career development team is our team designed 2 series of workshops this year, Executive Function and Find Your Spark, which was aimed to provide personal and professional development opportunities for youth during the school year. Find Your Spark was a series that was created to allow young people to define the concept of what a spark is, to define hard skills versus soft skills, and to think about their personal mission statement, their personality type, and a potential job career that they were connected to. And then executive function is something that we've talked about for many years, is that we believe it is incredibly important that we begin to think about how to support young people with executive function abilities. So we did develop a workshop series that covered mental flexibility, which is conversations to be open-minded about different opinions, perspectives, goal setting, time management, and also organization skills. So those are just some of the highlights of our career development work. And then the last area of our work is our civic engagement and outreach. Our civic engagement and outreach work was intentional, and it's the area of our work that puts youth at the front. Our Mayor's Youth Council, our Youth Lead to Change, our MBTA Youth Pass, our Youth First resources, and our outreach and communication are all designed with the goal of active participation and active engagement. With our Mayor's Youth Council, this year we converted the Mayor's Youth Council to a virtual youth civic engagement program, which was due to COVID-19, but also we experienced many benefits of a virtual NYC program. There were roughly about 84 high school students, as you have here, that were engaged and participated and served as ambassadors for the Mayor's Youth Council. we worked to develop a national guide on how to create a youth council to serve as a resource for other communities that were seeking to increase civic engagement. And within our Mayor's Youth Council, we facilitated the development of 8 youth-led impact projects that were aligned with each of our committees. So that's education, arts and culture, public peace, workforce and economic development, civic engagement and climate action, civic engagement and public health. And then with our Youth Lead the Change, this year, as you may remember last year, we developed our Youth Lead the Change model into a 2-year model as opposed to a 1-year model because we were not able to implement all of the winning projects in the same year in which we were actually facilitating and running the actual program. So this year just happened to be an implementation year of projects that won last year. So I have more information on where we are with the YOC implementation and projects I can share with you guys if you like. And then with our outreach communications and resources, please feel free to visit our webpage, youth.boston.gov. We revamped our SuccessLink webpage to reflect the new SuccessLink direct and grant partnership opportunities. This was really aimed at, providing a platform that was intuitive and that parents and young people can easily navigate to really understand the steps in the process. So if you guys have a moment, please take a look at that. We also partnered with the City of Boston's Black Employees Network to host our annual Dream Chasers showcase. And this was organized by young people, and it really saw nearly 150 community members attend. And this was youth performances focused on social justice, race, and cultural identity, and a panel of community leaders. And this was incredibly important, especially during a year in which we saw a lot of just social and racial unrest among the events that happened across our nation. And then our MBTA Youth Pass was also transitioned into a virtual service. So that is continuing. We're continuing to provide young people, particularly young adults, with access to affordable transit. And this was very important given the economic impact many young adults may have experienced with COVID. Boston was the first MBTA Youth Pass program in Massachusetts to shift to a virtual model to continue to provide young people with these affordable transportation options. And then we also partnered with the MBTA to provide program eligibility lists in 7 different languages: Cape Verdean, English, Haitian Creole, Cantonese, Mandarin, and Spanish. So that was incredible as well. And then our Youth First resources, we were flexible during the pandemic to create virtual learning resources for parents and young people during the pandemic. We partnered with the Mayor's Office of Food Access to promote the mayor's free meal sites this summer as well. And then stay-at-home guides to engage youth, we developed that as well. And then we expanded our Youth First database to include emergency services, IEP programs, and GED programs as well. And then the last piece here with our engagement and outreach is our partner engagement efforts, which was new this year. So we launched our first ever virtual youth jobs fair. So it was more like an employer meet and greet. It was a platform that really allowed employers to engage with the young people who they otherwise would not be able to meet during our public health environment. So young people have the opportunity to be in a virtual environment and learn about the summer job opportunities that were being offered this summer. And then young people were able to turn around and apply to the jobs of the employers that they met. So that was an incredible effort that our engagement and outreach team had came in and spearheaded for us. And then the last piece here, and then we can jump into questions, is the Department of Youth Engagement and Employment was announced as a recipient of the William T. Grant Institutional Challenge Grant. And the goal of that grant is to advance the work of reducing inequality among young people through summer youth employment by creating high quality workforce development experiences and preparing youth for educational and career pathways into adulthood. So this is a 3-year grant that we are in partnership with Northeastern University. And again, Alicia Monastino is the lead co-PI on this grant. So we will be working with them over the next 3 years to really build a focused research agenda to support the work of DYE in our efforts to build a more inclusive workforce development program here in the city of Boston. So the priorities of this grant will be to conduct long-term research about youth jobs, short-term rapid response data collection and analysis to inform the decisions to meet the grant goals, to increase coordination among the other City of Boston youth job providers, to strengthen areas that reduce inequality across the city when it comes to access to youth jobs, expand opportunities for youth to engage, and then link youth to other supports and workforce pathway opportunities that exist here in the city. So that is just a full, very quick, I hope, highlight and overview of our department's work. Going into this upcoming summer, in which we are a month away from the summer, we do plan to engage up to about 5,000 young people in summer opportunities. With our new grant funding model, we currently expect nearly 1,000 or so jobs to be funded through the Successing grant that I mentioned earlier to nonprofit and community-based organizations. Our employment team is working to put in place a robust process that will aim to monitor the youth and their partners who are expected to be engaged and hired directly by this grant model. So we provided a breakdown of all the jobs that you guys asked for, so you should have that information with you as well. We will be working closely with the Office of Workforce Development to provide another summer that includes the Learn and Earn program, which was very popular last summer. And then, as mentioned, this summer, we will provide leadership development opportunities for immigrant youth in partnership with a nonprofit program administrator. And then this summer, we have a plan in place to have 2 former NYC leaders who now serve in our office as interns work on further developing the Youth Civics Academy, which is a plan or an initiative to engage more young people, not just Mayor's Youth Council youth, but more young people across the city and connect them to understand civic responsibility and civic engagement. So thank you for the time, and Councilor, I will turn it back over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Commissioner. Really appreciate the presentation and, again, all the information you guys sent over. So I'll now go, per usual, to Councilor questions, and I'll reserve mine to the end. So first up, and I should note also that we were joined shortly after the Commissioner started speaking by Councilor Lydia Edwards of District 1. So we'll start with Councilor Campbell, and then it'll be Brighton, Asabi, George, Flynn, Mejia, Edwards, and I will shoot you all a text to that list. But Councilor Campbell, you have the floor.
Thank you, Councilor Bach, and Rashad, of course, thank you for just your work and, excuse me, your team as well. Really appreciate you thanking them, because none of us does this work by ourselves. So I know my office is continually in contact with yours, but also want to lift up, not lift up, my husband says, what does that mean? I also want to recognize the work that you do to think outside the box, right? To bring in resources and partnerships. You mentioned Northeastern. These don't just happen by accident. These are partnerships where you're going out into community to expand our capacity to create jobs, opportunity, mentorship, civic engagement, a breadth and range of not just employment opportunities, but life experiences and life skill development for our young people. So thank you for the work you do. A couple of questions. One is, obviously with the pandemic, that was really challenging. You guys had to adjust really quickly last year. What does the summer in particular look like in terms of the range of opportunities? Any federal dollars? Is there any discussion around any of these resources coming to you to provide greater opportunity? Another, in addition to sort of partnership expansion this summer, what you see it looking like, federal dollars. Another question is, in the sort of the type of employment opportunities, been having a lot of conversations, obviously, with industries right now that have fared well, even in the midst of the pandemic, and that's biotech, life sciences. What's our reach into those industries, which are vast, numerous, only going to expand over time with respect to youth employment opportunities? And then my last question, because I'm sure there might be a gavel at some point to stop me, is where do you see the greatest gaps? It may be neighborhoods, it may be age range, it may be immigrant populations. I really appreciated your thoughtfulness there with respect to folks in the immigrant community. It may be young people in our LGBTQ community. I'm just curious, where do you see gaps in terms of employment opportunities for young people, in terms of being able, not only what the gaps are, but how we can close some of those gaps?
Sure, Council Campbell. Thank you for just all of your questions. I think I heard 3 questions there, and if I miss any, please feel free to just jump back in. So the first question was centered around just federal dollars. So there is a response on the questions from the counselors that we worked with the Office of Budget Management to share around just how city funds were used, particularly CARES Act funding. We did receive CARES Act funding last summer, Councilor Campbell, and that CARES Act funding was used to help us create those 4 tracks. So there was a Blue Shirts track, there was a Learn and Earn track, there was a peer-to-peer track, and there was a virtual track. And then within those 4 tracks, we hired some career coaches, some leaders, not just young people, and there were some non-personnel costs there that really helped us and contributed to the success that we experienced last summer. So that CARES Act funding was instrumental, in what the city of Boston was able to do for young people in the midst of a very intense summer last summer of COVID-19. We do expect to have some federal dollars going into this year as well, which is helping us increase the number of jobs that we are offering to young people. Typically, as you may know, we offer between 3,300 jobs on a normal year, within a normal year before COVID, but the additional federal dollars has allowed the city of Boston to be intentional about providing additional resources to our department to help support and provide more opportunities to young people. So that was a response to the first question. The second question, I think, was more centered around just some of these private private sector job opportunities. So as you may know, DYE largely, because we're using city dollars, we largely work with nonprofit and community-based organizations. We have not ventured into private sector because a lot of our city dollars are being actually used to provide youth wages. The Private Industry Council, they are continuing to do amazing work, partnering with the private sector companies. They typically provide 3,000 or so jobs to young people within the private sector. I am not quite sure if they have partnerships in the biotech industries, but I do think that, as that becomes an emerging area, It is something that I can go back to Neil Sullivan and those folks and ask, are they having conversations in that space? And then collectively, we as a city of Boston do need to figure out how we can make sure that young people are being prepared for jobs in that area, because those are future job opportunities.
We can also follow up too, Rashad, with you and Neil and some others as well, but agreed.
And then the last question was around any gaps. So we just got approved to hire a data research and evaluation coordinator for our department, Council Campbell. And that role is going to be really, really important for us to really help not only just collect data, but help us analyze the data that we already collect. We collect a lot of data here in our office, but we don't have one staff person whose responsibility is to analyze the data and really help us understand the trends and the gaps that we experience with our services. So I would say that we collect demographic data that can help us inform what gaps exist. Alicia Monestino, her pre and post survey data did help us identify some gaps in the types of young people that are actually apply for jobs, and then the types of young people that actually get those jobs, and where there could be, some discrepancies or some levels of inequality there. So I'm very excited for us to bring on this full-time evaluation coordinator so that we can really do a deep dive in our data and be able to use that data to really give you a better response to that question, if that helps.
Very much so. And I totally hear you. A lot of data on many departments, but not the human capital to do the analysis to then craft solutions and response. One last question, and this is pretty specific actually on a gap. And then this will be my last one. So obviously the department receives a lot of its funding from YouthWorks. And we were in contact with some folks who talked about it being mainly focused, or the summer jobs being mainly focused on in-school youth, and the challenges that creates for those youth who are homeless or older than 18. So has there been the question was, has there been any discussion by the city to consider using general funds to address the gap so that there are no strings attached to be able to provide some more summer opportunities for homeless youth and youth that are not in school?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Council Campbell. The YouthWorks funding is, and I think we do have a separate YouthWorks hearing that is typically called, mainly I think around September, after we use YouthWorks funding to implement the program. But YouthWorks funding is geared towards proven risk youth. So those are court gang involved youth, those are homeless youth, those are youth with disabilities. So the way that we have used those YouthWorks dollars is we have identified the young people have self-identified as meeting those risk barriers, and then they do apply as part of the Success Link program. Not every young person is in school. There are some young people who are out of school that do apply to Success Link. And if they self-identify with one of those risk barriers, then we do include them as a part of our YouthWorks program. I think that we can be more intentional about special populations like homeless youth. I know that there is a partnership that we have this year, which is with Break Time. They directly target that that young adult homeless youth population. So I think it will be interesting for us to continue to explore. Well, first learn more about the demographics that all of our partners serve. Again, we do collect that information, but because we have nearly 100 or so partners, I think it'd be important for us, or great for us, to learn what populations all of those organizations serve, because some of them do serve these special populations, and then begin to further design programming to make sure that we're filling those gaps that exist.
Well, anything I can do to continue to support you, Rashad, you and your team on the gaps, let me know, including anything related to possibly pulling, of course, more resources from general funds because some of these monies are so restricted. But
Right.
appreciate your leadership as always in the work your team has done. Thank you, Councillor Bach.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Next up is Councillor Braden, and then it'll be Councillor Flynn. Councillor Braden? You're muted, Councillor Braden.
Sorry about that. I never remember. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Rashad, for your very comprehensive presentation. I've just opened up the responses to all the questions that we sent in as well. One area of my background, I've a background in special education as a physical therapist, and I just wonder, is there a particular segment of the summer jobs program that would find placement for young people who maybe have a disability? Are there any opportunities for those children, young people?
Yes, Councillor Braden. We currently, and we have been working with the BPS Stride program for many, many years. And BPS Stride does provide job opportunities to students and youth with disabilities. So I think the challenge there lies if we receive or if a young person with a disability is interested in a summer job and they do not attend a Boston public school, then how do we actually connect that young person to a job opportunity because they're not a part of BPS, so they cannot participate in the Strive Youth Jobs Program partnership that we have. So we've had conversations, with the Disabilities Commission about just additional partnerships, additional partnerships that we can begin to explore. So those conversations have happened. I think that we do need to spend more time having more of those conversations and identifying more partnerships with organizations that serve youth with disabilities. But yes, there is a partnership that does exist. I think we can do more work to identify a few more partners to create more opportunities.
Yeah, especially for young people who are transitioning out of, in the run up, the few years prior to transitioning out of the school system, it's really useful to have some job experience to build up your resume for future employment placements or whatever. So I think it's a valuable piece to think about. The other issue was in relation to parks. I know last year was a very challenging year. We in our parks department, did the blue shirts work for is that the program that works with the parks department?
Yep, the Blue Shirts initiative, the Blue Shirts program was a program that was in partnership with parks. Yes.
And is that still running? And has it been developed further than in terms of green sort of jobs?
It's not. So it's definitely an initiative that we ran last summer, again, because we were at risk of losing a lot of jobs, in the private sector and other places. So it was one of those 4 tracks that was created last summer. We received a lot of feedback about the Blue Shirts program. One of the responses I included in the questions is that, it was on our end to circle back around with parks to see about their interest in continuing to provide a Blue Shirts initiative. Again, it was something that they just, did last summer as well. It wasn't a standing part of their summer jobs as well. So, so I think it's just on us to have that conversation, figure out if that's something that we all feel, is beneficial to continue to have going into this summer. But it wasn't focused primarily on green spaces. I think if we shift the focus of it and be more intentional about just being a pathway into green jobs, I think if that's what you're asking, then I think, yes, we can have that conversation as well.
Very good. Thank you. Madam Chair, that's all I have for now.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor Braden. Councillor Flynn?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Rashid. Thank you for that presentation you provided. It was very helpful, very informative. So I want to say thank you to you and your team for the work you guys are doing, especially over this difficult period of engaging our young people with employment and training opportunities. So just wanted to let your staff know that they're doing a very good job. Rashid, and I was also happy to hear about the outreach you're doing with immigrant youth as well. Can you talk about some of the communication you're doing? Because I represent a large Asian community. Just wanted to see what some of the outreach you're doing to the Asian youth in the city.
Yeah, so I think two things. So the partnership with MOIA, Council Flynn, the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Advancement, is the partnership that I was mentioning, in which we are providing leadership development opportunities for immigrant youth. So MOIA has a host of immigrant serving organizations that they partner with, that attend some of their normal meetings that they have monthly, that they have relationships with. So Yusufi and Renato and that team is really amazing in the on the ground work that they're doing, particularly in those communities. So this gap around providing opportunities to immigrant youth was identified a few years ago. And then, we're very thankful for Marta and Yusufi and Renato for their leadership and say, hey, DYE, we know that there's a lot going on, but we are very, very committed to working alongside of you to begin to create more of these opportunities. So that is something, that we have done. I can connect with MOIA to kind of get a list of some of the relationships and organizations and partnerships that they have, because a lot of the outreach was done on their end. And then on our end, the outreach was done to all of our community-based organizations. There is a list of all of our community-based organizations linked to the questions here. There are a number of Asian serving organizations that we partner with. So we've done some outreach to those organizations, particularly in the Chinatown area. So we have. And then we've done outreach at BPS and just generally, our social media. So that's where the outreach is done. So yes, there's some internal organizations that we can share with you, that we have already shared with you in the document you have. And then I can connect with MOIA to get a list of some of the organizations and relationships that they have. I hope that helps.
That's very helpful, Rashid. I don't have any further questions. Just wanted to, again, say thank you for the great work that you and your team are doing during this difficult time, and keep up the good work. Keep working hard. Thanks, Rashid.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Bach.
Thank you so much, Councillor Flynn. Next up is Councillor Mejia, and then it'll be Councillor Edwards. Councillor Mejia.
Hello, Commissioner or Chief Cope?
I'm just a director. I'm not I'm not at that. I'm just a director. That's it. I'm not a chief, not a commissioner.
Well, in my eyes, you are. So just own the title. So
I'll own it for right now.
No, thank you so much for all your hard work. You know that all things young people is near and dear to me. So I really do appreciate your hard work. I only have a few questions. I just kind of want to follow up on some of the questions that we heard around some of our most vulnerable students. And I'm just curious, I know we talked about special populations, but I'm wondering what work can you lift up about serving undocumented youth and children of undocumented parents in that group? Can you just talk to us a little bit about that? And it's really inspiring to hear young people made the best of our remote learning job opportunities and how it made a lot of these job opportunities easier. And I'm just curious, as we move out of the pandemic, do we plan on continuing remote job opportunities? And if so, what are they? And how are we going to make that happen? And then my last question is, I'm curious about people who are aging out of the system. How do we set up young people for success long-term beyond the summer youth employment? It's amazing work.
Councilman Hill, all of those are great questions, very great questions. So I'll start with the first question about the immigrant population. So I'm going to jump back to kind of like the response I provided to Councilor Flynn, which is highlighting the Dreamers Fellowship, which is the partnership that we do have with the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Advancement. That fellowship was really designed to do exactly what you just mentioned, is to create opportunities, leadership opportunities for immigrant youth and parents that have children who are immigrant youth. And that program is designed similarly like our summer jobs program, in which it provides hours of skill development, leadership development, and work readiness for that population. We piloted that initiative summer of 2020. And then it was for about 50 immigrant youth. And then we had another program that we ran during this current school year. It's actually still running for 100 immigrant youth. And then we are also looking to provide that same program this summer for 200 immigrant youth. So we went from 50 to 100 to 200, scaling that program up because we know that population, that immigrant population, is a program that needs access to more services. And I can share more information with you, about just some of the outcomes and who the actual partner is. We do have a program administrator who was the same program administrator last summer and this current school year. So I can share with you more about that agency. And then the second question was centered around
the remote learning and how we're going to balance. I've heard from some folks already who were concerned that remote jobs may not be readily available this summer. Can you just confirm that? And if so, are you all considering some sort of hybrid to allow students who still feel unsafe to return back into the workforce?
Yes, great question. So I'll answer that two ways. So one is one of the tracks that we designed last summer, which was the Learn and Earn track, which is an initiative that we are providing again this summer. That is largely virtual, in which young people are actually taking college credit-bearing courses, right? And then there also may be a hybrid component in which they may visit a college or so. So that is considered as a job opportunity. We have about 160 or so partners, Councilman Mejia. And when we ask our partners to design the job responsibilities this summer, we also ask our partners to communicate to us whether that job opportunity is going to be hybrid, in person, or fully virtual. So we do have a list of, and I'm not sure if we included that information on any of the spreadsheets that we provided to you guys. I think Tiara, who pulled together the spreadsheets, she can probably answer that question better. But we do anticipate that most of our partner organizations will provide some variation of a hybrid opportunity now that restrictions are being removed. When we asked our partners for that information, Council Mejia, this was probably back in January when we did not know whether or not there were going to be restrictions still in place this summer. But as of the present day today, I think there are organizations that are continuing to make adjustments for opportunities this summer. So let's say an organization that told us in January they're going to provide a fully virtual program. Now that the restrictions are being removed, they're probably rethinking, their program strategy and say, hey, well, we might want to provide hybrid. Maybe so. I think that's something we're going to just continue to monitor because I think it's just because everything happens so quickly, it's just hard for us to know like everyone's plans and how everyone is shifting. But we do ask partner organizations to make sure, and we will ask partner organizations at our orientation next week to make sure if they are changing from hybrid, virtual, in person, whatever they originally communicated to us, that there is a plan to communicate that to the young people.
Okay, so before the gavel goes, and I'm sure it's going to come up soon, I see Councilor Bach moving. I don't know what that means, but if you could just give some response to the work for long-term success for students who are aging out. And then that's it. And thank you.
Sure. So in terms of students aging out of Success Link, I don't think that we have a plan in place for long-term success. I think that we have our career development programs that offers just skill development and readiness. So I think it's just that it's us being more intentional about measuring the impact of those career development opportunities and making sure that young people are equipped as they're transitioning out of our programs and into the workforce and into future career opportunities.
Yeah, and I would just add that as we start thinking about a plan, that I think workforce development is well suited to kind of create that pipeline. And I would suggest that perhaps we explore this a little bit further, because that is the most dangerous age. And if we're not setting up our students who are 25 and over, then we lose out. So I think that there's an area of opportunity there, and I'd love to explore what that will look like in the future. And thank you again for all your hard work.
And Councilor Mejia, there is a full listing of the different programs for 2021 and how they will be operating in the document that we sent back. So it's the 2021 partner list. So we do have the program operation column that would indicate whether it's hybrid, in person, or remote.
Thank you so very much for that. Keep it up, y'all.
Great, thanks so much, Councilor Mejia. Councilor Edwards.
Thank you very much. I echo the comments of my colleagues, really congratulating you all on rising to the occasion on so many levels this past year. And my questions really are just really more update questions. I'm really proud of the work you've done. And I do think that in many cases, and seeing the 200 immigrant youth jobs being part of this conversation is an indication that you heard a lot of what we were saying last year and the years before. So I want to acknowledge that. How many summer jobs do you expect to provide for this summer, or with the budget that you have?
Yep. So we are aiming for 4,000 Success Link jobs, and then we have an additional 1,000 jobs in which we are aiming to provide funding and partnership to either PIC, ABCD, or organizations that can support with those additional jobs. So in total, the goal is 5,000.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I remember that being part of the conversation last year as well. I'd like to talk a little bit about, Councilor Mejia talked a little bit about the youth that are aging out in general, but there are a lot of kids who are aging out of BPS at older ages, 21, 22, due to special needs. And how do you incorporate some of our youth that are developing differently, is what I'll say, and are also in need of the soft skill sets and being able to move into workplaces and to adjust and to learn how to rise to the occasion? How do you incorporate that youth?
Yeah, I can just use the Boston Day and Evening Academy partnership as an example because they work with a similar population, Councilor Edwards. So Boston Day and Evening Academy, they have designed a program to make sure that it's intentional with supporting the population that they serve. So we have worked with Boston Day and Evening Academy to ensure that even though they have aged, they're older than 18, we are making sure that we're able to still include them as a part of the employment program so that they can still receive wages. But Boston Day and Evening Academy is designing the actual program for their participants. And I think most of our partners design the experience and then they partner with us as the city to employ their young people, or in this case, their young adults. So for us, it's partnerships. I'm sorry.
I may not be as familiar with the day and evening population, but the population I'm specifically talking about are people who may have developmentally different or delayed, and as a result, they graduate from high school later. So that young adult population, right, with disabilities,
Yeah.
or the kids and young adults from the hoarse man or who are deaf or hard of hearing. What are your pipelines to make sure that youth is also included?
Yeah, so just going back to, I did provide a response. I can't remember which counselor asked, maybe it was Counselor Brighton that asked specifically about job opportunities for youth with disabilities. So my response to Counselor Brighton was the partnership we have with Strive at BPS that works with students with disabilities. So we do partner with them, and they employ nearly about, Tara can give me the exact number, between 150 and 200 young people, students with disabilities. And again, Strive creates those type of opportunities for them, and they just partner with us to make sure that we can support them from the employment end.
Well, not wanting you to repeat what you said to the great questions for Councilor Braden, I'll only ask if Boston Center for Independent Living is also one of the nonprofit. You had mentioned you work with nonprofits, so they have a wonderful pipeline, and their entire focus and mission is to make sure people live independent, vibrant lives. And they have some youth internship programs and opportunities. I would encourage you to work with them in the future to see if there's a way to pipeline and marry some great work, because I've had the opportunity to work with them. I was on their board, and what they really are about real jobs for folks with disabilities and making sure they're integrated. Switching over then to another theme, and again, I apologize to my colleagues if you've already discussed green jobs and youth, and oh good, we have not. Could you talk to me a little bit about that? I know in Charlestown, we were looking at working on I'm building on already with the good work of Councilor Bach and a youth corps, but specifically having to do with the Boston Housing Authority and the green tree conversation. So could you talk to me about how you are using environmental stewardship and our youth and bringing the two together?
Yeah, great question. So I think just as recently as, I think it was last week, our office actually met with the Environment Department. And our conversation with the Environment Department, Councilor Edwards, was an exploratory conversation. So it was an opportunity for us to learn more about their efforts around green jobs and how we can begin to think about including young people in those opportunities. And then it was also for the folks at the Environment Department to learn more about our department and SuccessLink and our jobs we provide. So I would say that we are beginning to have conversations in that space. I cannot say that there are currently jobs that exist. We do have a few partners, I think ACE, Speak for the Trees. There is another partnership, Tara may know.
Green Team,
Emerald Necklace.
Yeah, so they are.
Common Square.
Yeah.
Harbor Keepers as well. Harbor Keepers in East Boston and NOAA. Those are some youth organizations that have done a lot of work. I hope you will consider them part of your list.
Yeah, so they are current partners, Councilor Edwards. So they will be employing young people this summer and providing opportunities. But so both of those opportunities are happening.
Wonderful. Well, I'm really excited for the work that you're doing. I would only, I'll follow up with hopefully connecting you and working with you to get more organizations that work with folks who have some disability. But other than that, I'm really excited to see how much this has grown. And I thank you for your incredibly detailed presentation.
Great, thank you, I appreciate it.
Great, thank you so much. I'll jump to my questions, and then if council colleagues have a second round, I'm happy to go to them. I'll just say, first of all, just pick up where Councilor Edwards left off. Thrilled to hear that you've already sat with Environment. When we had them at their hearing, one of the things that I raised was hoping that they would work with you guys, because I think you know, they've got this $1 million for green jobs, as you know, and you know, I think there's a piece of that that's kind of, you know, thinking about expanding the parks workforce and such. But it does feel like the thing that's actionable this year on that front is sort of like, you know, it's building off of these little seedlings you have, as it were, in Success Link, of green jobs programs that right now maybe have 10, maybe 20 young people in them, right? And so I think I'm really glad to hear you guys are talking, and I think that's definitely like the way that they could spend some money this year on that sort of builds us towards a bigger thing. And I'm all for Councillor Edwards having her 200, you know, jobs for, well, I don't know how many Councillor Edwards you're aiming for, but you know, some real jobs at BHA for young people thinking about our trees. Because I think as we build urban forestry, we want that, and we want those opportunities reaching right down into our housing developments. I think that's super important. So I'll just do a big echo of her on that. And just thank you again for, you know, my office specifically asked a lot of detailed questions, so we really appreciate you guys sending all of these answers. And really excited about the 2 new jobs, the 2 new like roles in your office. I think, you know, we've talked a lot about, I mean, it's funny, right? It's like everybody loves what your program does, and everyone just wants more of it, and I think does want like sometimes more communication. You know, we talked about the fact that I think the grants thing is thrilling, right? The fact that we're finally getting there, because it does open up the possibility to provide youth to like jobs to our dreamers. It opens up the possibility to just help some organizations that have the ability to run payroll and stuff not have to deal with our admittedly bureaucratic process for onboarding young people. But it would have been great to have more partners at the table in the like forming of that plan. And so it's exciting to hear you guys have a plan to be sort of doing more proactive outreach, and that the deputy director is going to enable you to do more of that. And I'm really excited about the data evaluation piece. I mean, obviously I hope that we'll do data evaluation, and then we'll take that next step where we implement things that we learn from the data evaluation. That's always the trick of it. But we got to do the evaluation first. And sorry, I think I slightly missed, Rashad, the innovation grant. I forgot the name of it. It was named after a foundation. There's the foundation that just gave you a big grant.
The William T. Grant Foundation?
Yes, the William T. Grant Foundation. So what specifically is that paying for us to do?
Yep. So that grant is helping us do a few things. So one, it's helping us evaluate the Success Link youth jobs. So this is the type of jobs we provide, who we are partnering with, and then it's also going to help us understand who are our regular participants in these jobs. So Alicia Monestino has been conducting research about summer jobs over the past 5+ years. So she has 5 years of research, not just from DYE, but from PIG, ABCD, and YOU, and I think maybe 2 years of MLK Scholar research. So she's going to help us just look at find out whether or not there's overlap, kind of just do like a systems mapping, you know, of where all the jobs are at, and then help us really think about how do we make quality improvements to our youth jobs program. So whether this is us tiering jobs, whether this is us thinking about a badging process in which we can provide badges, you know, based on the type of participation. So yeah, so that's what I can send you, you know, more information about the actual grant itself and all of the various components. It is a full research project. So the Dockets Center over at Northeastern University is the leading researcher that we are working with around this effort.
Got it. And so, but what's the hope in terms of how that external evaluation will interface with our internal person we're doing to do the data research and evaluation coordinator?
Yeah, so they'll be working collectively. So I think if you think about like YEE, our internal person will help us really just synthesize all the data that we're currently collecting and work in collaboration with Alicia to make sure we're sharing all the data that she needs to help her develop that research agenda and that research plan for our office, if that makes sense. And then our internal person is also responsible for helping us evaluate, our civic engagement program, which the partnership with Alicia is more focused on youth jobs, not our other efforts as well. So does that help or?
Yeah, no, that definitely helps. Yeah, I was just trying to think through how the labor was being distributed. And yeah, no, that's helpful. And I guess, but one thing I would flag is, we obviously, we frequently hear from lots of youth advocates about they're the same things you hear, right? Like you just mentioned the idea of tiering jobs, right? Like, is there an opportunity for us to have some classifications of jobs that have more responsibility, that pay higher wages to our older young people? Obviously, we get questions about the sort of age range and the time period, all that. One thing I wonder if, but I think I would advocate that before sort of like the evaluation design is totally set in stone, that maybe, and maybe it's the external university team has this meeting, maybe it's you and them, but like basically there be some kind of meeting with advocates to be like, so what are the things? Because I feel like if people are going to study, what makes the difference, what are the questions we want to ask, it would be logical to make sure that some of the inputs into that are, our youth advocate community, our partner community. I'm just thinking about, there's nothing worse than doing a like really detailed, thoughtful study and coming out the other end and realizing that like you didn't ask the questions people thought you were going to ask, right?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a great point. We did have plans to include partners. I think that we also can think about the youth advocates as well, but we definitely have discussed ways to engage partners and get partner feedback to help inform the process. So I can also just think about how do we include the advocates who might not be partners, right? To have their voice be a part of this as well. So definitely a great point.
Yeah, I just think anytime you're doing evaluation design, it's a measure twice, cut once situation, right? It's like yep. you want to work at all the relevant inputs in ahead. So I think that would be great if you guys would do that. And then and just so I'm clear, how many? I know I got the spreadsheet, but I didn't see a sort of sum number. How many jobs did we end up having last summer? I mean, I know we funded 5,000, but where do we land when all was said and done in the summer?
Yep. So that is.
And if I missed it in the doc, I'm sorry.
Yep, it's there. Let me see if we can.
I saw 953 out of 1,000 year round. Maybe I just didn't find it. The number for
the final number was 3,784 for the summer.
And then plus the 9. What is it? The school year?
Plus the 953 for the school year.
Yeah, so that's.
And sorry, remind me, did we fund 4,000 or 5,000 last year?
We funded 4,000 last year.
Okay. And so we're funding. So we were just the just that like 250 or 220 or something shy in the end. Mm-hmm. And then this year we're funding 5,000 altogether when you include the 1,000.
Correct.
That are grant funded, right?
Correct.
Okay. And the 953. And then, I know you guys said you didn't really have the right way to pull it, but
what's that? Pull
the one question we asked that I think you didn't really have a great way of finding the answer to straight away was kind of this question about like how many young people are employed at any given snapshot moment of last summer. And that's really, that's really in response to, we always have challenges with getting everybody onboarded in time, and it would be helpful to understand what the scale of that challenge is, right? Like
Mhm.
from the outside, like how many of when we talk about 3,784, how many of those are kind of with us week 1 versus week 2, week 3?
Hey, Tara, did you want to give a response to that? Because I think that's, so when I spoke with Council Bach, when I spoke with Tara obviously is our, systems person, and that manages our youth jobs process. And she would just explain to me where all the data lives, like all of that data lives in so many different places. So Tara, did you want to just give a quick response to that? That might be helpful.
Yeah, I think the only way that we would be able to pull that data is in collaboration with like auditing and payroll. And that's largely just because we don't own like the payroll data where we're seeing when young people started to get paid. The only place where we would be able to potentially pull that data from is in ISIMS, in terms of when young people are hired. So we can say what was their effective date, meaning when they got pushed to hired status on the ISIMS end. But in terms of when they got paid and how much they got paid and all of that's much more difficult just because that's data that's not housed with us.
Right. Okay. Well, maybe I will through OBM send that request their way, because I totally hear you. Yeah, it sounds like a payroll answer, but it also sounds like something that payroll should be able to pull pretty like easily. Like it should be like there's a certain number of persons who are coded as YEE who they paid at any given.
That's correct. That's correct.
Right.
They should absolutely be able to pull it. I think the extent of what we would be able to provide is just a full listing of all the young people who were hired, so the 3,784, and then what each of their effective dates are. So we'd be able to tell you when they were hired in the summer.
Got it.
Because the effective date is always whatever the Saturday is prior to the Monday when they start. So
Right,
we could pull that data and we would be able to provide you with that, but we wouldn't be able to tell you all the additional questions that you asked within that question around pay, and how much they were paid in total. And I understand why you were asking that from the perspective of what was their potential earnings, versus what they actually earned, which makes sense, but we don't own that data.
Yeah, no, and I'm happy to push that question their way. I mean, yeah, as you know, like I mean, this is really in some ways, it's me trying to help agitate on behalf of YEE. I know you guys have done a ton of work with the city departments around the process stuff and like trying to smooth that process, but we all know, and getting 1,000 young people right into the grants program will help, but we're still talking about 4,000 folks who, for anybody watching at home, basically the way that we hire most of the youth for the summer is we make them City of Boston employees. And that means that they get processed through City of Boston HR, which understandably doesn't usually process a wave of 4,000 people with the same rough start time. So yeah, so I'm just trying to understand kind of what that, exactly like you said, Tara, what that capacity gap is. And it's not really to give you guys a hard time. It's just to try to think about what should our targets be when we think about what a better process looks like to me, it's, more of the young people getting hired earlier. And I do think that's like it's an all departments process. It shouldn't just fall on you guys, because there's a lot of folks who touch those files before they become employees. So yeah, I think if you could if it's easy, Tara, without taking a lot of YE staff time, which I value, to pull just the, like start date, like numbers, that'd be great. But we'll go to payroll for the rest of it. And then I saw the comment, we really would like to see us be able to keep the young people from the summer in the system to facilitate their school year hiring. And I saw that that's something you guys have advocated for, and that it's kind of a do it OHR decision. So I'll definitely ask DeWitt about it later this week. But would just underscore my interest in that. But the alarm went off on me earlier, so I may come back to a couple more questions, but I want to first check whether any of my colleagues have follow-up questions. And I already see Councillor Braden's hand up. So I'm going to go to Councillor Braden, and then if Councillor Mejia or Edwards have second round questions, let me know. So Councillor Braden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to get another bite at the cherry here. Youth jobs in Alston, Brighton. I looked through the wonderful spreadsheet you gave us. There's 2 locations, BCYF Jackson Man take 20, or this is for this year, and Tenacity which is based in Alston Brighton, but has young people who have, they take on students from all over the city, and they run their programs all over the city over the summer. They take on 65, so that's a total of 85 jobs that are sort of identified or located in Alston Brighton. It seems really low. And I know, I wonder just how do we do outreach to the young people, especially in BHA housing. We've had some conversations about, our young people living at Commonwealth Housing and at Faneuil Gardens about programming for young people. And then I look at these numbers and think we're not doing well enough, I don't think, in identifying potential youth jobs in Alston Brighton. So that's just me at first blush, just looking at these numbers. And if you could enlighten me or help me think, maybe we need to work together to try and identify more employers in Alston Brighton. But what's your read on that?
Yep, Councilor Breeden, I would say it's just that. I would say it's working together to identify more partners that we can collaborate with and work with to provide job opportunities for young people in the Alston Brighton area. I think the two that you named have been standing partners for many, many years. But I'm sure there are other youth serving organizations or agencies in the Alston Brighton area that may provide programming to young people. So if we can work with you, if that's your area, if we can work with you to learn more about the partners and organizations in that area, then I think on our end, we can, just share with them more about our program. We can have we can just schedule a meeting with them so that we can learn more about their organization. They can learn more about, the work that we do here at the city, and then think about ways in which we can partner.
Yeah, it seems like an area where we need to do some more work, and I appreciate your willingness to engage. And just in terms of outreach to potential partners, like what is that outreach? What does that, if you're looking at like Alston Brighton, where there's we've got BCYF and Tenacity, long-term partners. How do you reach out and identify new partners?
Yeah, so the way that we've identified new partners is a few different ways. So prior to the pandemic, we would actually have, just I forgot what we call it, but it was an event in which we welcomed any new prospective partners that were interested in employing young people. So we would send just general emails out to our listservs. And we would, send emails out to, our partners, just the schools, MBTA, and we would just let folks know that we are interested in just learning, more about just various partnerships. So that's typically how we have conducted outreach to new partners. We have also just identified just organizations who are not partners with us, and really just share our newsletters and just share more information, with those partner organizations about our work. And then what I mean by organizations who are not partnered with us is organizations who are registered as nonprofit 501c3s in the city of Boston. We have pulled that data, and then we have shared information about our work and our department, with those organizations who are registered 501c3s but are not partners with us. And then Jeremy might be on. Jeremy has come into our role to help us think more about ways in which we are expanding our reach to new partner organizations. So if you don't mind, Councilor Bach and Councilor Breeden, I can have just Jeremy jump in very quickly just to share some of the ideas that we discuss about reaching out potentially to new partners.
Yeah,
Okay.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Jeremy Casanjanamari, and I also have the unique perspective of having spent the last 7.5 years as a partner of YEE at St. Stephen's Youth Programs in the South End. So I'm coming to this role with that lens. We've done a lot of conversations around partner engagement, and I would say with a focus on thinking about how we're creating and building partnerships with community-based organizations that are year-round and extend even beyond simply the Success Link partnership, but also ensuring that community-based organizations have access to all of our resources for young people in an annual basis. So whether it's MBTA Youth Pass, whether it's representatives on MYC and YLC. And I think one of the ways that we're going to do that is there's two styles. One is in person and going out into the community and going to community centers and going to nonprofits and youth programs and meeting with people through intentional engagement and recruitment and conversations. And the other is utilizing our current existing partner network, as Rashad talked about, and creating both virtual and in-person opportunities for partners that might be interested in any of the resources to learn more about how they can get engaged in the Youth Lead the Change initiative and thinking about capital projects in neighborhoods all over, as well as how we're having MYC young people serve as ambassadors in the community, right? So the Mayor's Youth Council itself is a group of 85 young people that represent neighborhoods all over Boston. And one of our visions for this program is to ensure that they are doing neighborhood-based meetings and engagement with young people and organizations in all the communities of Boston. And so next year, we are going to really be continuing to lean into our youth ambassadors to help us do some of that outreach and to engage in the communities that they represent, to ensure that more and more organizations are connected to our work through Success Link, are connected to our work through MYC, Mayor's Youth Council, and Youth Lead the Change, and continue to have access to all the resources that we provide, and that we continue to think about how we're engaging as partners in this work, and not just providers, but really continuing to evolve and think about how we are doing that outreach and communication. So those are some strategies. And as a former partner, I think, we continue to think about how we make this process easier, how we engage partners, and how we're equipping partners, from also designing a partner boot camp that allows for partners that may not have previously engaged young people in professional opportunities, but might be interested in it, how we can help equip them with support as it relates to job design and description and all different parts of the process. So including, that's also about engaging organizations that may not have previously had this opportunity, but might be interested otherwise.
That's wonderful. Jeremy, I think we should continue this conversation offline and with our office and see if we can get something going to get more jobs in Alston Brighton.
Absolutely. I'll happily reach out to connect in conversation.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Great. Thanks so much, Councillor Braden. Councillor Mejia.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So I just have a quick follow-up question, kind of along the same lines in terms of I'm looking specifically more along the year-round job programming opportunities. And I'm curious about Madison Park. I always talk about Madison Park at every hearing, just so you all know. And I believe there is an opportunity to create a pilot of sorts that helps support some of the students at Madison Park and connecting them to some of the businesses that are in the area. I'm thinking specifically like Hill Holiday, which is an advertising agency. They have graphic design. They have they shoot video commercials, and I'm thinking that we have a lot of talent at Madison Park. What opportunities exist to create a paid internship with some of these area businesses in Boston to help support Madison Park. And I'm thinking specifically also around the building trades and creating more employment opportunities for students in that space, and what, if any, work has been done to ensure that Madison Park students have year-long paid internship opportunities. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Sure thing, Councilor Mejia. Thanks for that question. So we have partnered with Madison Park from the BPSN. Last summer, we attempted to employ some young people within Madison Park School itself to just to engage in like pipe fitting and some of those trades at the school itself. We did that. We worked directly with the headmaster at Madison Park last summer. Those conversations did not continue into this summer, unfortunately. So I do think that there there is an opportunity for us to kind of circle back around to kind of figure out whether or not there were some changes in leadership at Madison Park or what happened. So I think, so that's something that did happen last summer, and then it's not happening this summer. And then we do partner with Madison Park Community Development Corporation, MPDC. They are an employment partner, and they do work with some of the local businesses in that area to engage young people as a part of their employment program. So that is something that has happened and is continuing to happen.
Thank you for that. And in regards to the businesses that are in the city of Boston, who we may not have official partnerships with as of yet, what opportunities exist to, I just gave Hill Holiday as an example, because I know they're an advertising agency, but what other businesses, private businesses are within the city of Boston that would be willing to partner with us in the future?
Yeah, I think that a part of our summer jobs evaluation work that Council Bach, which is asking about, is going to include that level of assessment in terms of where are all these jobs located. So the Boston Private Industry Council, as you may be aware, they are under our summer jobs umbrella, right? But they're not YEE, they're the PIC, and they do work directly with private sector companies. I think it's going to be important for us to know what private sector companies they work with, and then what private companies, which might be smaller private companies, they do not work with. And then there we begin to identify the gaps in private sector opportunities for young people. And then I think from there we need to put in a plan in place to determine whether or not is there a way in which, that becomes a PIC partnership, or, what is YEE's role using city dollars to develop partnerships with those private companies. And then just, I'm sorry, Councilman here. And then in terms of the trades, that is absolutely.
Rashad, you just muted. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We heard you said in terms of the trades, and then we lost you.
Yep. So in terms of the trades, that's a great question, Councilman here. Like we have been asked that question a number of times: is can we develop more intentional partnerships with getting young people into trade opportunities? And yes, we can. So I think that we have to be able to. That's gonna be a part of our expansion efforts. How do we expand jobs in that area? So I think I would just say more information to come on that. We just have not had the capacity to really explore that, but that is definitely an area that we are open to exploring, and hopefully we can do that soon.
So thank you for that. And the reason why I ask is because in a lot of the hearings that we participate in, we always hear, oh, we don't have enough talent, or this is one of the reasons why we're unable to do X, Y, and Z. And so I think you are well positioned to really create that talent pipeline that we allegedly can't seem to fulfill. And right. I think that there is an opportunity within the work that you all are doing to kind of help feed that pipeline. And so I'm encouraged by the work that you all are doing, and do believe that you might be the answer to a lot of the issues that we find ourselves dealing with as it relates to diversity and pushing for that. So thank you for your efforts there. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Councilor Mejia. Just a couple more from me, and then we'll go to our public testimony. I see the thing about how we're getting the process, context for those watching at home. Obviously I think there's definitely an interest from the advocates, from me, others, that, in how could we start the year-round jobs earlier in the school year? And I just want to recognize that just the sheer number of year-round jobs that we're providing now is like a huge jump. And we really appreciate you guys. Obviously it was great to fund that in the budget last year, and it's really great to know that we made 953 of those happen. And so in that sense, it's really real for a lot of young people. And I know that the window for that, you say in your answer, was sort of ran from mid-November to mid-May. So, you know, always interested in kind of pushing that window earlier to ideally to September. And I saw in your answer, you know, that like, you know, you've sort of gotten it down to maybe a 2-month onboarding, but it's just tricky to do it sooner than that. So I guess, I mean, one thing I'll just say is it does seem to me like even sort of a month would make a big difference. Like if we could make that mid-October instead of mid-November, just because I think, you know, when you're starting jobs around Thanksgiving, it's just kind of a weird time for a lot of our like young people to start something.
Right.
And so certainly want to say, you know, hope for that. And I think I have this distant memory that I've asked this question before and that the answer has to do with the software we use, and so please forgive me, Rashad, and also Tiara, but the reason we can't start that process for youth for the school year before our summer job process has concluded, why is that again? Why we can't have an overlap?
Yep. Tiara can jump in, Council Bach, to answer that question.
Yeah, so there's an entire process that leads up to us opening jobs. So we first have to accept partners, right? So we're releasing the partner application. The partners create the jobs. So the job descriptions that you see on our website, that's what they create. We do not create that. Then that's when young people go through the application process. So that 2-month window that we identified, we did that in collaboration with OHR and with BASE, which is a part of Do It. And so what we did is we mapped out our entire workflow from the time that we have a partner apply to the time that we get the jobs into the system and posted. And that takes about 2 months. So that's not just the youth application, and that's not just youth onboarding. That's us doing outreach for school year partners, because our school year partners do, in some ways, they do differ from the summer partners that we have. And it's doing all of that outreach, getting the jobs from those partners, which takes about typically like 3 weeks. We keep the application open for about 2 weeks, and then that takes about 3 weeks. And then the entire process of setting up the system that we use, which is ISIMS, takes about another month in collaboration with OHR and BASE. Because we are testing that system, we're making sure that the application works. If we're making any changes in the language that we use in email templates or on onboarding, we do that as well. We're testing all of that as well. So it does take about 2 months. I think that the shortest that we can probably get it is maybe a month and a half, and that's just provided that everything goes perfectly. But there are so many hands involved in us getting it set up. So that's why it can't happen when the summer is happening. We have to make sure that, and I will give that context from last summer, we were hiring until maybe end of July. Right. And so there would have been no way that we would have been able to post new jobs when we were still hiring in summer jobs any earlier to start by September. And I think season to season, we do see that we can go into July for hiring for every summer we can go into July for summer jobs.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Got it. And yeah, I mean, I still find myself wondering, like, is there a way, like, could we, for instance, when we solicit partners for the summer, like, could we have a, like, check this box if you're also interested in offering school year jobs? Because I do think there are programs where partner organizations have to make their decisions earlier, right? And I think in some ways we let everybody decide at a very late moment. Like, it wouldn't be wild to me to ask a nonprofit, like, are you in with us for the summer? And also, you know, are you in with us for next year? And kind of, and I mean, you'd still probably want an on-ramp, right? For people who miss that, but thinking about, is there a way to create some kind of a facilitated on-ramp for the year-round, even when we're doing the summer solicitation, and whether that might also just help save you guys time, right? Like if it's, we put out this app and it also has this component where people can signal that they want. I don't know. Anyways, just thinking aloud. But
yeah, I think good idea. We can definitely just think more about it, but thanks for sharing that. It's a good idea.
Okay, and I think I could ask you all these questions all day, but I think I do really appreciate all of the answers that you sent us and all the work you're doing, and I think I'm hopeful that these additional jobs are gonna, sorry, I can't say jobs because it sounds like, it's great that we have the additional jobs for youth. I'm hopeful that these additional staff roles are really gonna, support your work, Rashad, and kind of scaling up on the evaluation, the communication side and all of that. And I definitely would echo Councilor Mejia that I think the more we can dovetail with workforce development and think about, pathways in that are really real for our young people in terms of where they might lead next is great. Yeah, I think I'm just double checking that those are all mine. So I think, did you want to say, before I go to public testimony, Rashad, did you want to make any kind of closing comments?
No, just thank you. We continue to be just very much committed to, just the feedback from all of the city council members. It is our goal to kind of work collectively with you guys as you all are advocates for the constituents that we all serve. So, just thank you for just all your questions. We do, as you have experienced, we do take all of your thoughtful feedback into consideration as we, go into planning mode for our work going into the next fiscal year. So we will do exactly the same going into this next fiscal year, is to make sure that we are considering anything and everything that has come out of this session in order to improve the services that we are providing. So so thank you.
Great, thank you so much. And I'm sorry, I remembered my one last question, which is just, do you guys, because obviously that some number of roles don't get filled, separate from our whole issue about onboarding, right? There's just like partners who we assign jobs to who don't end up getting them filled. So do you guys sort of over assign numbers wise, Rashad? Or do you only assign the number that we fund officially?
We only allocate what we have funding for. We never over allocate what we don't have a budget for.
Got it. Even so, it's not like we don't do an attrition rate multiplier or something that says, oh, this percent of jobs don't come through. So okay.
Yeah, we don't. Nope.
Got it. All right. Well, that's helpful to know. And thank you again. And with that, I am going to start taking public testimony. So I've got the first up will be Connor Schoen, and then I've got Min Mai. So if you'll just bear with me for a second while I let folks in and obviously, if I mispronounce your name, please don't be shy about correcting me. Connor, you are up first. Just if you can introduce yourself and say where you live or what organization you're affiliated with, just so the public knows, and then share a comment.
Thank you so much, Councillor Bach, and thank you to the DYEE team for your tremendous report today. My name is Connor Schoen. I live at 359 Park Street in Dorchester, and I'm also the co-founder and co-executive director of Break Time, which is a Boston-based organization working to end young adult homelessness through purposeful transitional employment and financial empowerment. So as Councillor Campbell mentioned today, one of the major gaps that we see within youth employment programming in the city of Boston revolves around year-round employment for young adults experiencing homelessness. And this is something that I've spoken to Rashad and Tiara and the team about, but I just wanted to put this in the public testimony that there's definitely a need for more general fund allocation to support year-round employment opportunities for young people. Boston young people who are out of school need employment year-round. They don't just need summer jobs. And for folks that are 19 to 24, there currently isn't strong city-supported avenues for them to get that employment. DYEE and Rashad's team have been doing tremendous work to make this possible. But at Break Time, we're just advocating for an expansion of a general funds allocation to support this year-round employment. As Rashad mentioned, YouthWorks funding is fairly restricted in its focus. That's the youth employment funding that comes to the Commonwealth Corporation. And as the state, we continue to work with the state to figure out sort of how to expand the eligibility requirements of that state funding. It would be great to continue to partner on the city level to make these opportunities more available to young people, and also to have the city of Boston really be a leader in showing the state of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts just how important it is to support the young adults experiencing homelessness in our community. So that's all I had, but thank you so much to everyone. And I'm incredibly grateful for the work that DYEE is doing to support our young neighbors in Boston.
Great, thank you so much, Connor. Next up will be Min, and then it'll be Salma. Min Mai, you have the floor.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you everyone for having me, and thank you for giving me this space. My name is Min, as you guys may know, and I am currently right now not affiliated with any organizations, but I originally came from the Mayor's Youth Council as a youth ambassador. I started my involvement there in freshman year, and I held a couple of titles through my involvement with the Mayor's Youth Council. I have attended numerous our annual job fair, which is amazing. The council, the committee I served on was Workforce and Economic Development, and currently I sit on the board, the committee of Youth Engage. I'm sorry, pardon me, of Youth Lead the Change. There we go. There's a lot of acronyms going on, and in the meantime, I also work with the Culture District Infused Corner. I am a part of. I help them kind of ratify that, bringing youth voice to the table. I remember when I first joined, I was the only one under 18, so which is kind of exciting and kind of terrifying at the same time. I would admit that joining the Mayor's Youth Council has caused such it really developed me as a person, because I would never do this on my own. It started with kind of the first notion of, sure, why not do something like this? And I joined, I started to educate myself. I learned about civics in school, but it wasn't as impactful as actually being involved. I've through my job here, I learned about my counselors. I learned about who runs what. There's a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of red tape everywhere. No matter what I want to do, I always find myself having to go through this department or that department, which kind of like illuminates kind of how our democracy is wonderful, and like just the fact that it works. Sometimes it might not be the best option, but it is a very powerful option and a very inclusive option. And then when I mention inclusivity, I want to tie it back to kind of what I joined the council for. My mission was basically to elevate the lives of Boston's youth through financial literacy. That was the basis of me running in, like, when I was a freshman and as a sophomore. The committee recognized that, and they saw me, in my motive as genuine. So last year I worked with the Department of Financial Empowerment with their Bank on Boston division to fight for like non-custodial accounts for Boston's youth, and find ways to kind of fight for making sure that our youth are getting banked and adequately banked. If you read the MLU, you can kind of read a little snippet, which is one thing I'm most proud of, is where the amendment was basically Bank on Boston will basically focus and find ways and avenues to empower Boston's youth. That's not verbatim. That is kind of like a snippet and kind of the summary of what that is meant to do. It is kind of my most fun thing, as you guys know. And also another thing is like the culture district that was recently ratified by, I'm assuming, you guys a couple of weeks back. So the Feast Corner Culture District for Little Saigon. So that was very fun. But going back to the financial empowerment and talking about Bank On, Andrea Campbell and Julia Mejia, city councilors at large, I want to emphasize the areas of improvement that I have recognized just in the council, and just kind of show you that our department can improve and grow like immensely. If we reference back to kind of other organizations throughout this country, we can look and dive into the summer job in Chicago, they also have a very similar program to what we have here in Boston. The only caveat there is that their program is heavily invested in and is way more impactful, and it dives deep into kind of those disparities in our communities, such as they made sure that those who are in the program are financially literate, such as explaining to them what their the pay statement represents, and showing them exactly what these taxes mean, and elaborating on what type of credit unions you guys can have, what kind of credit unions and banks and financial institutions you guys can apply for, because through SuccessLink, I was formerly employed through SuccessLink, and I would receive a check. But here's the problem: some of these youths do not have a checkings account, or they come from families or their current position. Oh, pardon me, it looks like I froze. Some of their their story is that they're not well connected to our financial banking system or modern banking system. So what that leads them to go through is basically check cashing facilities or pawn shops. And that in itself is just a cycle of poverty that we are trying so hard to rectify and make right to our community members. So if we can find ways to kind of implement in a banking system or a financial literacy system through our program, and making sure that these folks are not just empowered, but also know what to do, that is an area that I can see these funds or potential funds and development take place and grow this committee. I see a hand from Michael, so I'm not sure if I.
No, it's all right. Just finish your remarks, man.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Yeah, so I am currently a junior now. I'll be continuing. I'll be running again for director next year, and I'm hoping to still stay involved. I can't agree more with kind of being prepared for a future life. I'm that nerd who talks about financial literacy. I'm that nerd who talks about credit, and stuff like that. And if we can talk about like avenues of expanding this program to include more of like directly working with corporate entities, instead of just having us as in the city of Boston subsidize some of these jobs, I would say going into and focusing heavily on STEM as in, I'm assuming, I'm looking at the census of 2010 right now. I know that Boston is a pioneer of like the medical industry. So maybe pivoting to kind of avenues to kind of develop on that and enhance that, instead of just working on these fundamental part-time jobs. Those are also another key area that I hope to help the department improve upon. And I yield my time to share.
Great, thank you so much, Min. We really appreciate you joining us from the Mayor's Youth Council. I am going to go next to Salma Murphy, who I think is also joining us from the Mayor's Youth Council. And then we've been joined by Councillor Michael Flaherty at large. So Councillor Flaherty, I had said Salma could go next. I'm just going to let her testify, and then we're obviously in the public testimony portion, but then we'll go to you for just some comments. And if you do have any questions, Rashad is still here with us, so I'm sure he's happy to take them. But Salma, why don't you go ahead?
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Salma Murphy, and I am a junior at Boston Latin Academy this year. This is my first year on the Mayor's Youth Council, which was an interesting one because of, being virtual, but it was absolutely amazing. And I'm more than grateful to have been a part of this opportunity. It has presented so many different, opportunities to myself, along with people part of my committee. I started on the Civic Engagement Committee. I was able to plan and, help my committee co-plan the Women of Color in Government event, which was absolutely amazing and so insightful. With this opportunity, I've been able to learn more about City Council, get involved with City Council, get involved with other, elements of local government, and it has really fueled my passion for this work. And it's kind of given me and helped me foster a sense of what I want to do in the future, which is absolutely amazing. So I do want to get involved with something similar and continue to work with civic engagement and helping youth, specifically youth of color and low-income students, prosper and kind of break the system of oppression that we live through in Boston. So I think that we definitely do have to invest in our youth in order to foster a better future for Boston and a better future for our nation in general. I believe that Boston is a blueprint for the for the U.S. as a whole, honestly. And I believe with strong policy that will advance our communities of color, our students of color, is well worthwhile and well worth our time discussing and going about. So yeah, the department has been nothing but amazing to me in general. Me as youth council is something I would definitely be returning to next year, and then even after high school, I really hope to still be involved with the department, with the office, as well as just DYEE being there since I was young, just kind of being involved with different opportunities, different things they presented to me as a young person growing up in Boston, which is absolutely amazing. I worked with the Office Opportunity Gaps last year, summer 2020, which is such a great job learning about pedagogy and education curriculum. So that was absolutely incredible. And yeah, so just I think investing in our youth, like I said before, is a very, very critical and crucial part of advancing Boston and ensuring upward mobility for everyone in Boston, all of our communities. I've been able to not only work with such amazing people in the committee, but work with people outside of Boston in different offices of women advancements. I've had amazing connections that have only helped me advance my personal fulfillment, but also my professional and academic fulfillment. And I know many other youth are going to benefit from these programs, which is absolutely amazing. And I can't wait. And I get so excited at the thought of the future of Boston and what we can do for youth in Boston and hearing about our incredible youth. I know Min does a lot of incredible stuff as well, alongside the whole committee. And then with the Youth Council, just kind of like what it's done for me outside of just what we've been doing all together, it's also part of my work, my global work. So I founded an organization called Girls Give Back Global, where I work with girls all over the world to promote female initiative. And so the council has definitely been a crucial way and critical way of me growing that. And just being a part of such a great community is so impactful to the youth. And I thank the City Council and everyone here right now for listening to the youth and really giving us a chance and investing in us. So thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Selma. And with that, we'll just interrupt public testimony for a second and go to Councillor Michael Flaherty at large, who also joined us, and I know might have a comment or two related to Min's comments, and then Councillor Flaherty, if you have any comments or questions for YEE, then we'll go back to public testimony. Councillor Flaherty.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm sorry I was on and off a couple of times. Yes, can you hear me, Madam Chair? Madam
Yes,
Chair,
I can
you
hear
hear me?
Yep. Well, I was able to hear you. Now you're muted.
Madam Chair, sorry about that.
Yep.
And I just want to respond to Min's questions. He raised some excellent points, and want to remind. Am I in and out?
A little bit, but I would just charge
Is that better, Madam Chair?
Yeah, that's better. Councillor Flaherty? Now you're on again.
Trying to get a better signal. Tough reception. So I just want to respond to Min's comments. He made some.
Councillor Flaherty, we lost you again.
I don't know if this is going to work out or not, Madam Chair. Does that work?
Yeah, that works.
You know what I'm going to do, Madam Chair? I'm going to get off and reboot. I'm going to get off and reboot. Is this better?
Yeah, I mean, we can hear you now.
I'm going to get off and I'm going to reboot it again.
All right, sounds good. I'll go on with public testimony. Thanks so much. Sorry about that. Okay, and then next up is Lara. Perla Lara. Perla, you have the floor.
Hi, thank you so much. Hello, everyone. My name is Perla Lara. I am the program coordinator for the Southwest Boston Community Development Corporation Green Team. We are the Youth Jobs and Environmental Stewardship Program. This summer is actually going to be our 13th year operating the Green Team, which hires Boston youth to restore our local conservation land. Youth identify and remove invasive plants, restore walking trails, plant new trees, and educate the community about proper use of the woods. Youth also receive environmental education so they understand why their work is critical to help mitigate the effects of climate change. We also provide extensive job readiness and life skills training such as budgeting, banking, post-high school career options, youth rights and responsibilities. The restoration work of the program is physically demanding, especially on hot days. Youth are using landscaping tools, which have to be handled safely. Understanding proper workplace conduct is new to many youth, And for all these reasons, we need one experienced supervisor for every 5 youth. And for our team of 15 youth, we require 3 supervisors. However, YEE has only been able to offer us 1 supervisor at a pay rate of $14.75 an hour. And in our experience, in order to attract skilled, mature 20 to 24-year-old supervisors who can effectively manage the team, we need to offer $19 an hour. $19 an hour. And as a nonprofit, we have to raise the funds for program coordinator position, tools, supplies, and equipment. And this added burden of raising funds for 2 additional youth supervisors is a challenge. And so we're urging the city to increase the YEE funding so they can provide partner organizations like ours with additional supervisors at a higher rate. We would also like YEE to have additional funding to expand our Green Corps program and others like ours in order to introduce more Boston youth to green careers and begin building a pathway to adult careers and what we hope will become a new citywide Green Conservation Corps program. Thank you.
Great, fantastic. Thank you so much, Lara. Naaman McDaniels, you're up next. Naaman, are you in with us? Naaman, you have the floor if you want to unmute.
Yes, I apologize. I actually like to pass on my time. I wasn't sure if I had signed up the wrong way, but I'm one of the coordinators here at YEE for Rashad and Tiara. So I apologize if I signed up for something that I wasn't supposed
to. Kenzie, Councilor Bach, you're muted.
Oh, thank you for telling me. I was saying, Naaman, that we usually default to calling on folks who have been in the waiting room for a while, so we just figured, but glad to have you with us. I am going to go to my colleague, Councilor Michael Flaherty, who's rejoined us just for his comments. Councilor Flaherty? Councilor Flaherty, just so you know, you're muted.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Obviously, want to thank everyone for their presentations and for their questions, and been a long time supporter of year-round job opportunities for our youth and appreciate the work that YEE does. Wanted to obviously respond to Min's questions. Years ago, the council had a committee, banking and community reinvestment, and we made great strides recognizing the problems that he underlined with respect to the check cashing outfits that were charging exorbitant fees for our youth who were working summer jobs or in some instances year-round jobs to be able to get their checks cashed. So we corralled all of the banks that do business with Boston, particularly those that have our depository accounts. And we were able to rally them to allow them to come down when the youth were getting their job assignments to have them open up accounts. And they were kind enough, I believe at the time they put $25 in each kid's account to get them started. And then the kids were able to cash their hard-earned checks at that particular bank. And in many instances, they were our community banks, which were helping kids build credit worthiness. And in many instances, these kids were sort of first-generation bankers in terms of their families and having bank relationships that will allow them down the road to potentially buy their own car or be able to purchase their own home and or qualify for student loans. So all of it was good stuff. So we did work, and I'm happy to work with Min again to see if we can get them to do it. The program lasted for a few years. It was called Bank on Boston. The previous administration eventually walked away from it, but it was a great opportunity for our youth to introduce themselves to lending institutions, to be able to make deposits, to be able to cash their checks, to build the credit worthiness that they'll need as part of the future. But also, it's the financial literacy piece was invaluable. So those partnerships, I believe, are still there. We get a lot of banks. Just go up and down all of our neighborhood streets. You can count the banks on both hands. And so we do have lending institutions that have been good partners. So happy to work with Min and others to see if we can reestablish and get our lending institutions, particularly those that hold our depository accounts for the city, to step up and start a program again with our youth, similar to what we had when we started the program several years ago. So thank you, and thanks. Keep up the great work for the youth, and count me in as a supporter of the YEE budget.
Great, thank you so much, Councillor Flaherty. Next up is Wahaj, and then it'll be Favor, and just feel free if I mispronounced your name to correct me. Wahaj?
Hello, my name is Wahaj Farah. I'm one of the youth activists, a part of YJPU, Youth Justice Power League, and I live in Mission Hill. And so for my demand is for hiring youth at age 14 and also hiring young adults at 19 to 22. Starting off, the reason why hiring youth at age 14 is important is because youth, especially at that age, are at that point where they're too old to be in summer camps and other middle school activities, but also not old enough to have jobs like SuccessLink and other activities that can really be beneficial during their summertime. Being too old or too young is what many youth feel like and are feeling like as we speak. I would know because I too was that 14-year-old with that predicament. As a 14-year-old, you are in this stage where you are entering high school and you are already excited from leaving your old middle school and starting your new journey as a high schooler. With many kids during that summer, it can really be a make or break for them especially. Many kids during that age were at that point and when they wanted to pursue jobs, but unfortunately with the lack of access and awareness for jobs hiring youth 14 and up, they were slim to nothing. With new budget increases within youth jobs, it would be more easier to hire youth at age 14. And with new policy, especially this year with the SuccessLink saying students who turn 15 by September can get a job. Why not just expand that job eligibility with all 14-year-olds as well? When it comes to 19 to 22-year-olds, although I'm not at that age yet, I have many friends who are and feel concerned with getting a job after high school. From those who are transitioning from the SuccessLink process to getting a regular job, and many college kids who are transitioned from high school would actually want to get a yearly job. However, that opportunity is scarce with them. We have all the necessary funds as a city to support them finding a job. In fact, there are several hundred supervisor jobs offered in the summer. Why not increase that and extend that also into the school year for many young adults who are eager to grasp the opportunity with your support? This will not only be a win-win for Boston youth jobs, but also pave a path for economic stability for young adults in our growing competitive work pool. When it comes to 14-year-olds, there aren't enough programs for them to accommodate their interests. Something like a little stipend with super teens and some little activities that replicate a summer camp isn't going to be sufficient enough. We must not only lower the age group for kids to get a job to 14, but also expand to 19 to 22-year-olds who are seeking a job, but are unfortunately denied many, that they accumulate a lot of debt without extra support with job access availability. So in my demand, one, cut $120 million from the police budget and freeze all hiring for police officers. 2, reinvest the $120 million in community needs, such as hiring young people and creating more access for jobs and stability. To end off, I would like to say a quote from Kim Janey in an interview in February. She said, reported by the Boston Herald, she said that, again, focus has to be on the people of Boston so that the people of our great city are well served. Well, Mayor Janey, the people want jobs and they want jobs now. Thank you so much, and I yield my time.
Great, thank you so much, Wahaj. And I will say we did learn in our information request, and Rashad, correct me if I'm wrong, that the eligibility date this year has been moved to if you turn 15 by September 1st. Is that right, Rashad?
That's correct, Councilor Bach.
So obviously that's the first 3 quarters of 14-year-olds, but I hear you guys loud and clear on wanting the 14 across the board to be the lower 8, and I thank you for bringing that demand to the table here today. All right, next up is Favor, and then it'll be, sorry, I've lost Ayan. So, or is it, unless you guys want to switch the order?
No, it's okay. I can go
okay, great. Wonderful.
Hello, my name is Faber and I live in Hyde Park. I'm part of YJPU and I'm here to demand for more jobs for undocumented youth. Kim Janey agreed to allow the Dreamers Fellowship and the school year jobs to last from September to June, and we are here to see that she keeps this promise for not only youth with documented status, but for undocumented youth as well. We also want to see the budget increase so that the opportunity to get a job is easier for undocumented people. Right now, there are only 198 slots for the summer, and there needs to be more. Undocumented youth are people too, and should get the same opportunity as US citizens. Undocumented youth are always being targeted by ICE and other police groups, but don't get the opportunity to join youth leaderships, organizations, or jobs that can help them for their future. Instead of investing in these dangerous police forces, we should allow undocumented youth to apply for youth jobs so that they can support their families. We demand to see a cut of $120 million from the police budget and cease all hiring. I want to see this $120 million go into creating more slots for undocumented youth. Let's put our focus in supporting undocumented youth instead of criminalizing them. Thank you so much, and I yield my time.
Great, thank you so much, Favor. Next up, Ayan.
Hi, my name is Ayan Mohammed, and I live in Roxbury, and I'm with the Youth Justice and Power Union. I'm here to talk about the promise of 5,000 summer jobs and 1,000 school year jobs made to us by Mayor Kim Janey. Last year, we were promised 4,700 summer jobs and 1,000 school year jobs, and then we were only given 3,758 summer jobs and 938 school year jobs instead. It was very evident YEE did not provide us with what we were told by the Marty Walsh administration. They gave a bunch of empty promises. If you guys promise a specific amount of jobs along with the budget and don't give the actual amount of jobs, where is the rest of the money going? Now that the role of mayor has been passed down to Mayor Janey, she has the chance to correct these errors. On May 19th, Mayor Janey agreed with the need to extend school year jobs from September to June. We demand that you guys actually give 5,000 summer jobs and 1,000 school year jobs. And we also demand that school year jobs are made year round. In my experiences with jobs, you should extend summer jobs from the beginning of the summer to the end of the summer. We know that they're doing that for the grant awarded jobs. So what about the normal successing jobs? In the past, it was insufficient. It's only 6 weeks. It starts in the beginning of July and goes to the middle of August. If it's a summer job, it needs to be the whole summer. On top of that, school year jobs only go from November to April, even though the school year is from September to June. For school year jobs, why doesn't it start in September? They're just giving these titles such as school year jobs that don't go along with what they're actually giving us in reality. In my experiences with BAHEC, a school year job, the funding is different between jobs that have the Success Link benefit and some that don't. Some of my friends working at Success Link got $200 bi-weekly, while I was only getting $80 to $100. There's a huge difference in that. We were only given the option of 4 hours a week, while Success Link workers can have up to 10. This highlights why more school year jobs should be provided for students. As of right now, the budget is $10 million for the school year and summer jobs. In order for our demand to be fully met, the budget must be increased to at least $15 million. In addition to our demands for youth jobs, we also demand for $120 million to be cut from the police budget and for the city to freeze all police hiring. The $120 million needs to be reinvested into the community, which includes our youth. Thank you, and I yield my time.
Great, thank you, Ayan. Next up is George, and then it will be Lavelle Parkman. George?
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you great.
Good afternoon. My name is George Lee, and I'm one of the adult support staff with Youth Justice and Power Union. Thank you, Chairperson Bach, for postponing this hearing because of the original conflict with Eid to make sure more folks could come. As folks might know, our group, we taught how we see it. When politicians support us, we say that and appreciate it. When politicians don't support us, we say that. And want to give a lot of credit to Mayor Janey for leading a letter last year to Marty Walsh that included asking for 5,000 summer jobs and 1,000 year-round jobs. And it's a fight we've been waging for 10 years under Menino and Walsh, and kept hearing lies and excuses that it couldn't be done. And within 1 month of assuming office, Mayor Janey made it happen in the budget. So all the lies we were told before that there wasn't enough money, clearly there was. And thank you to the mayor for fulfilling that promise. Other changes that have been made, as Rashad and folks have mentioned before, is starting the grants program. allowing some 14-year-olds to apply, but from our understanding, it's not 3/4 of 14-year-olds. It's only 1/6 of 14-year-olds. You have to be 15 by September. So if you're still 14 in September or October or December or June, you don't actually qualify, unless we understand that wrong. But we want all 14-year-olds to get jobs. But they did extend to 14-year-olds and started the Dreamers Fellowship. My theme today is mainly on the issue of getting more information into communication. We asked a lot of questions to SuccessLink last year in April and May, and we never got answers. We had to look back at today's hearing to see if those answers were given, but it shouldn't take a year to get answers. It shouldn't take repeated emails. It shouldn't take city councilors having to ask it multiple times either. And the reason that communication is important is even with some of those solutions that have been adopted, a lot of that came after we asked for that last year and we're told, no, we can't do that. We can't do grants yet. We can't hire 14-year-olds. We can't increase the jobs. We can't hire undocumented youth. Instead of just telling us no flat out, if you want to work with us, let us know you can work with us. And then when you make these changes, let us know so we can celebrate with you instead of feeling like there's a lack of communication. Some examples of the information that we're missing, I'm going to share some slides. One is that in the past, we realized that there were thousands of jobs that were budgeted for but went unfunded. And so SuccessLink didn't spend all the money they were supposed to. And we've asked for more than a year, where did that $1.8 million go? Can it be put back into youth jobs? And that's information that we need to have. This is an example, the screen shares from a budget back in 2011, where they actually said how many people applied for jobs and how many people got the jobs. Over the past 2 years, we think probably because there were problems actually meeting the goals that were set out, the numbers look very different in the budget. They no longer even say how many young people actually got jobs in the past, each summer. They just have this generic goal of what percent was accepted. We need more transparency like we had 10 years ago in terms of how many people actually get jobs. Right now, we think about 8,000 people. This was in the info that was sent to the city council. About 8,000 people registered for SuccessLink, but there were only less than 4,000 jobs last year. So there's still a need for a lot more jobs. But again, we need to make sure we get that information in a timely way. We need to know where this missing money went. And we need to make sure that we get information in real time this month to know that we're actually hitting those 5,000 summer jobs and 1,000 school year jobs this year. So to summarize, we need transparency and information, and we need to make sure we hit those jobs that as Mayor Ginny has already committed to make sure that jobs are really year round from September through June, which we think actually requires an increase in the budget. We need more jobs for undocumented youth. We need all 14-year-olds to qualify. Like Perla said, there needs to be more funding. So there's 19 to 24-year-old positions, that there's more of them, that they're better paid. We need supervisor and 19 to 22-year-old positions during the school year as well. And also we need to cut the police budget by $120 million instead of hiring 2 new classes, which might cost 25, 35 million. That's a lot of money that could go to jobs and other things. Thank you to the counselors who last year put commitments actually in writing and helped make sure we won this jobs increase this year. That includes Mayor Janey, Councilors Mejia, Wu, Edwards, Campbell, Royal, Breeden, and Bach. Councilor Nisa Savi George also wrote a letter saying she supported youth jobs, and Councilor Flynn wrote a letter without specific numbers, though. Unfortunately, Councilors Baker, O'Malley, and Flaherty did not write letters of support. And even though often people say they support youth jobs, we need to see that you're actually putting in writing that it's a priority. So thank you to the councilors who did support us last year, and we hope folks put their support in writing with specifics. And we also hope you support actually voting against the police budget until it cuts it by $120 million and has the hiring freeze. So we hope you support that as well. Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you, George. Next up is Lavelle Parkman, and then it'll go to Ikram Muhammad. Just so folks know, I'm assuming that everybody who's in the waiting room wants to testify. If you don't, feel free to just say you don't. But Mr. Parkman. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, I'm not testifying. I'm just watching.
Okay, sure, no worries.
Sorry, my name is Lavelle Parkman. Unfortunately, like naming, I might have signed up wrong. I work under Director Cope, so I'll just yield my time. But I would just like to say, we thank you for all the support that you're doing, because our work is very important for the youth of Boston, and we hope to continue to do that work for many years to come. Thank you for your time.
Great. Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to try this a different way. If you are in the room and you want to testify, will you raise your blue hand? I see I've got Eddie Franco, Arlen, Janat Hassan, Maria Jahangiri, and Vedeline Verdu. Any of you want to testify? All right, I'm not seeing any blue hands. Let me just, I'm always worried about cutting people off on Zoom, so we'll just do this. If any of the folks who I just let into the main room want to testify, will you unmute or turn on your video, or otherwise let me know? All right. Seeing none, I think we have come to the end of public testimony. I want to thank everybody for making your voices heard today. Special shout out for Wahaj, since he's from Mission Hill, which is my district, and he did a real eloquent job. And thank you again to Director Cope and Tiara and Jeremy and the whole team. It was really great to have you all here today, and we do appreciate the answers to all of our questions. Obviously, you know, we'll have continued follow-up, and I think, as you heard today, right, Rashad, a lot of what folks want is to make sure that that we get every job, you know, into the hands of our young people, and that we keep growing. I now see that Janat's hand is up, so I'm gonna recognize Janat if you want to make a public comment.
Hi, yes, my name is Janat, and I just want to say that I think you guys should defund the police and fund youth jobs. That's it. I just want to say that.
Great, thank you, Janat. All right, and I think that's now really everybody. Oh wait, sorry, my staff are telling me there might be one person. So let me just check. All right, I'm just gonna, sorry everyone, I'm just gonna hold us for 1 second so that we don't cut. We may have somebody joining us.
Hi, Madam Chair. We're going to be having someone joining us very soon.
Okay, great, excellent. So we will hang tight for a second. Sorry, these are the joys of the Zoom experience, but we want to, you know, as much as possible, as we're still doing these virtual hearings, make sure that everyone gets their voices to be heard. Councilor Mejia, while we're waiting, did you want to make a quick comment?
Yeah, so I'm curious about the lowering the age advocacy. I always talk about starting working when I was 12, even though it was under the table. Nonetheless, I got a head start in the workforce. But at 14, I know that I was able to secure working papers and a working permit, I believe, through Boston Public Schools. And maybe things have changed since then, but I know that I was able to work at 14. And so I'm just curious as to why are we not supporting something like that? So I'm just curious if anyone could help me understand the why not.
Sure, Councilman here, I can jump in. So in terms of the 14-year-olds, the way that we have looked at the requests for more jobs for 14-year-olds is considering what type of job opportunities exist out there for 14-year-olds within the youth jobs landscape. So one, that consists of ABCD, and then two, it has consisted of, as you heard some of the advocates mention, the BCYF Super Teams program, which is intended to be a pre-employment program. So I think we have looked at what exists and begin to kind of think about how does that fit in with YEE and where does YEE's kind of just role come in when it comes to job opportunities for 14-year-olds. I probably cannot share like what has happened in the past, I guess prior to me coming into this role and what that has looked like and how jobs for 14-year-olds were spread across the city. But I just know since I've been in this role, that's how we have looked at just the opportunities for that age group population. And then as Councilor Bach did mention, like 14-year-olds that are in the same class year, I guess school-wise, as some of their peers who may turn 15 before the summer are actually included in the Success Link program this summer. So that's the adjustment that some of the advocates were also mentioning, is that if you are 14 years old by September, that eligibility, you are eligible. But if you are not, if you are 14 going into the next school year, you are not eligible. So I hope that's a clear response to that.
It's helpful, but not hopeful, but helpful to understand the why. And so, yeah, I believe it was through the PIC program that I was able to get a job at Brigham and Women's Hospital. And I may have been 14 or 15, but anyways, I do believe that there are benefits. And as you all think about the data that you're collecting, I think it would be helpful if you have information available that goes the impact that a job has on a young person, even at an earlier age, and how that builds a strong foundation for work ethics and also a deterrent to violence. So I think that that data will help us make data-informed decisions about what we can and cannot do. We might be able to allot some more dollars in the budget to help achieve those goals.
Yep, agree.
Great. Thank you so much. I think since we still haven't been joined by the person we thought might be coming in, I do think that at this point I'm going to adjourn the hearing. So again, grateful to the YEE team. Definitely, I think the age question again underscores just the idea of, as we do evaluation, thinking about how we bring all those pieces in. So we know, to Councilor Mejia's point, who could we be serving, who exists, how are we thinking about the pipeline on both ends of it? I think that's really important. And now, after a few false starts, this hearing of the Boston City Council's Ways and Means Committee is adjourned. Thank you all.